Hello, everyone. We are on the third day today of our series of free practical workshops. We're talking about distance learning resources. We have educators all around the world who are sharing their experience. They're sharing the resources that you use in those difficult times. And hopefully you will gain valuable information from today's discussion. I have two wonderful ladies with me today from actually different parts of the world. I have Kaye from Vietnam, and I have Laura from United States. So today, Kaye would start her presentation. She will be talking about teaching students during those times and sharing the distance learning resources. And Laura will be talking about teachers' recording resources that any educator can use nowadays practicing distance learning. Okay? So I will quickly put, I forgot to do the introduction. So, Kaye, maybe you can start, do a brief introduction of yourself, and then we'll move to Laura. And once the introductions are over, then we can start with your presentation, Kaye. Word to you, please.
Okay. My name's Kaye, and I'm the assistant head teacher at the British Vietnamese International School in Hanoi.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And Laura, your turn.
Good morning. My name is Laura, and this is my 8th grade year of teaching. I teach Spanish in the United States, and I'm just really excited to be here because I think it's really important for teachers to get the resources that they need during this distance learning time. So my presentation will talk about recording services that are available for free that really help teachers and equip us with what we need during this time.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Just quick house rules that if you are watching us live, you can post your comments in the chat. If you're watching us in recording, you can always contact Kaye or Laura on their social media. Their contact details will be posted under their video presentation. So I'm sure they will be open to answer all your questions.
Of course.
Okay, great. Well, Kaye, we'll start with you. Laura, I'll put you then on mute, and good, so we're good to go.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Share screen. Oh, it's giving me some tips. Hang on.
There is a button just underneath share screen.
I think I'm getting there.
Okay, and then I will add that to the room now. So
can
you're
you
good
see
to
that?
go. Yeah, I can see that.
Fantastic. Okay, so as I said, I'm from, we don't say that all the time, BVIS in Hanoi. We're a bilingual school, and we are in our 8th week of distance learning. So we feel a bit, we feel like we're professionals at it now. We're not really, but it feels like a long time. So today I'm going to be talking about tracking student engagement in a virtual school, the why, the how, and the next steps, because this is something that came up very early on. So this was just a who am I slide, and there I am in Hanoi. And just to give you an overview of where we're at, we're not doing too badly considering we have a 1,200 kilometer border with China. So we closed our school on the 3rd of, or the government closed our school on the 3rd of February in 2020, obviously. Our proposed reopening date is now the 6th of April. This is our 5th proposed reopening date. So out of our 8 weeks, we have spent 5 Fridays getting ready to reopen to not reopen, which is quite frustrating. Currently in Hanoi, we have 38 cases of COVID-19, which is the highest in Vietnam. And I just checked before, we've gone up 2 cases nationwide, so we're at 123. So that's kind of our overview. So it has been a steep learning curve over the last 7 to 8 weeks. And we're actually going on holiday starting on Thursday. We've had our holidays moved twice. So yeah, I hope some of this will help you if you're new to this, because it's something we've had to learn as we go. Okay, so I read this Jason Yanowitz's what am I trying to say? His stream on Twitter, not stream, his feed on Twitter, and it really inspired me for this slide because we've been doing this for so long. I do feel like we've been through some stages. So first of all, I mean, we were given, gosh, at 9 o'clock Sunday night, we were told we weren't opening on Monday for the week, and we've gone week to week. So first of all, we were like, COVID-19 exists. I'm in the north of Vietnam, so I'm quite close to China. It's just a flu, we'll all be fine. They've closed the schools. We all thought this was a massive overreaction, and we thought we would be back in work in a week. Then stage 2, Vietnam then got some cases. They closed down a province which borders Hanoi, Vinh Phuc, and the ideas of students being allowed back in is disappearing in front of us. Rumors are starting everywhere. The parents have a vote. They set up their own voting, and they do not want us reopening under any circumstances. So I'm also the exams officer. We run the international Cambridge exam, so I'm beginning to panic, and as are my students. What do we do? But then we thought, no, we'll be back. It's okay. It's okay. Because then stage 3, we had no new cases in Hanoi for 23 days. We were absolutely getting ready to have students back on the 9th of March. We were ready to go. We were excited. We were optimistic. The end was in sight. Everyone left work on that Friday, just really happy because the school is really quiet without all the students. And then on Friday, the 6th of March at midnight, a new case in Hanoi was discovered. Areas became quarantined. COVID-19 is back, but this time from Europe. And to give you an idea, Hanoi is a very crazy, noisy city, and all of a sudden Hanoi went very quiet, which was really unusual and a little bit disconcerting. And I think now we're in stage 5, which I'm just going to say, I'll let you know how we're going, because we're still learning. And my presentation is really about, we are learning new things every single day in all of this. So that's just where we've been at. We have been at it for as long as the China schools have been, with much less cases. But, you know, Vietnam is saying that the reason for so few cases is that they closed the schools so early. They haven't shut down anything else just yet, but schools have all been closed, and we're not allowed to open. Even as private independent schools, the government said no way. So that's where we're at. So first day of students, we were like, we have to do a register, but they're all at home. What do we do? So one of our IT guys created this Microsoft form, which we posted out for students onto, we use Microsoft Teams. Every class has a team, so they were to fill this out for every lesson. And I don't know if you can see at the top there, but you know, this was in 1 week, we had nearly 4,000 responses. So our engagement looks absolutely amazing, you know, like fantastic. But going into the second week, we realized that there were some issues. So we know that the students are registering, fantastic. And we're a secondary school, so I'm talking 11 to 18-year-olds. So students are very good at registering all times of the day. Even our older students, they were registering. To our principal and to our company, the engagement looks absolutely fantastic. Hurrah. But the teachers start reporting the students are engaging, but they're not actually doing any work that we're setting. So our pastoral leads said, well, we need to be able to track this. And they're absolutely right, because eventually students will be back. Parents need to know what's going on. And as we'll talk about a bit later, there's lots of different issues with this if students are not engaging, especially now that we are into week 7, week 8, I've lost track. So what do we do? How do we find this out? And I talked to some other schools, and there were lots of ideas of, we will create year group spreadsheets, and we will share all the spreadsheets, and everyone will fill in the spreadsheets, and then the pastoral leads and the heads of the subject and the subject leads will track these spreadsheets and we will make a decision and send out emails. But when I talked to a head of department from another school, she was telling me not only was she trying to teach 20 lessons a week from the ages of 11 through to 18, and any of you who have been doing this know that it takes longer to set up online lessons. Not only was she doing that, she's also trying to track the engagement in her department to report to the senior leadership team. So this idea didn't really work for me because I could see the heads of departments and pastoral leads trying to teach online lessons and then drowning in paperwork to gain valuable data. Now we need this data, but I felt the need to make it slightly more simple, which was difficult. A lot of people like the spreadsheet idea, but I was a bit worried because I'd heard from other schools how much time it was taking to track this and then to contact parents. So I work with a wonderful IT department and a wonderful reporting at MIS superstar Hung, who's fantastic. She and I had a discussion. She can usually solve all my reporting issues, and yeah, sorry, there's my graphic of what I imagine people's laptops looking like. So Hung and I went back to the drawing board. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek and the circle of why. So my big question here was why do we need this data? I really am not a fan of data just for data, to produce spreadsheets and to analyze. We need to have a purpose. So what do we want to do? We want to report. How are we going to do it, and why? I've slightly adapted this golden circle, I know, but it just seemed to fit for tonight. So yes, it was like, what it's great having data, but what are we going to do with the data? And that was really important as well. So then my brain got thinking, and the next slide, this is a very messy mind map of where my brain was going, because there were just so many different strands to all of this, and this mind map could go on and on, could take over a room, but we had to think about, first of all, student well-being. I was only speaking to one of our senior students last night who's 18. He's one of my best students. He has not left his apartment for 4 weeks. That is a huge well-being concern. So our students are isolated. I need to check a student's okay. Also, we all have vulnerable students who we already know there are safeguarding and concerns with them. So we need some way to be looking at how we're working with those students. Of course, the big one, academic progress. We were meant to be starting exams on April 29th with our exam board, Cambridge International. Today, they cancelled their exam, so we don't know what that looks like just yet, but it's been a long day. But eventually, these students will be back. What happens when they return? What happens to students who have not done anything for any of this time? So how can departments work with the data that we get? What do we do with our exam groups? And also, how can we support these students? And that's bringing in our IT team. We are a bilingual school, so we teach in English, but 90% of our students are Vietnamese. So, and our parents are mainly Viet speakers. So, we need to look at using the data to find out if we find, whatever we find out from it. Does the IT department need to ring home and do some training with parents? Can we move from, to begin with, we were calling ourselves e-learning, but we moved to remote learning because for subjects like art and for music and for into our primary school and our younger ones, our 11-year-olds in the secondary, they needed work packs that we collected from school. So all of this is in why we need to track their engagement, who is coping with what we're doing and who isn't, because eventually they'll be back and we have to have a starting point. I hope they're back soon because the school was just so quiet. Okay, so as I said, that mind map I could keep adding. I stopped myself so I wouldn't bore you, but I could just keep adding to that because for everything I put on there, there was another layer and another layer. So my motto always is to keep things simple. Okay, so to stop spreadsheet madness, as I call it, we'll use that MIS system, ISAMS, to create a weekly data drop where teachers input a 1 to 4 for each student's level of engagement. We didn't do this for the first 10 days because we kept thinking that the students were coming back, and then we realized that we might be in this for a much longer period of time. Really simply, 1 was outstanding, 4 was no contact, no engagement. Originally, very ambitiously, we were going to do this twice a week to give our pastoral needs a chance to ring and see if that ring home and see if that made any changes. This created an impossible workload for everybody, so we dropped it back down to once a week. The first week of doing this was absolutely awful. I mean, I teach probably the fewest classes in the school, and I found it awful because we hadn't thought about where we're putting all our work. The students were doing work on all different platforms, and sort of to get the information, you had to bring all that together. So that started a whole new conversation about how we would submit work to make this easier. And also, we were still very much, the first week we did this and week 2, we still thought that this would end really quickly and that we would come back quickly. Sitting here now looking at it, I can't believe that it's been, it's 5 data drops that we will have completed for this term. So, if you have an MIS system like ISAMS or anything like that you put your reports in, I really suggest going to talk to whoever runs that and seeing if they can set up these columns for you for each subject or class, and make it much easier for people to track. And so then the next thing I was like, well, what will it look like? The next slide, I'd hoped it would look a bit better, but this is really difficult. We do have students as well who are down in the provinces with very little internet access. They're using their parents' phones. There's all kinds of reasons why they may not be engaging. And that's actually what we're using the data to find out, not for them to be in any kind of trouble, but to find out what can we do to help. So this was year 8. You can see it's dominated by red, but our key stage leads took this and started getting, we worked out a plan of attack, really, of how we can reward the kids who are doing a great job and how we can support the kids who seem to be struggling. And you can see on there are kids who just we haven't heard from, and we can't get hold of their parents, which is even more difficult, and it's a little bit worrying. I know our head of pastoral this has been a very worrying time for him. So to make it simple, after we put all of this out, we contacted the pastoral leads, contacted the students first. We set up one-to-one Teams meetings, which we recorded for safeguarding reasons, and to see if we could get them online. We tried emailing them if that didn't work. We asked their friends if they'd heard from them. You name it, we did it. Any feedback from this was disseminated to the departments. And we did hear back from students. I mean, we had stories. One student was really angry that we'd contacted him because he said, well, I've done all the work, I just haven't submitted it. I'm sure if we said, well, it would really help if you submitted it and then your teachers will know this. So he was online, but unless these conversations were happening, we wouldn't have found that out. And we had so many story anecdotes like that. I've seen some amazing students just trying to be online from all kinds of places. And we then had to put in rules, of course, of where they were contacting us from, in an area, in a communal area in their house. So if the student contact didn't see any improvement, then an email was sent to their parents quite quickly. This is all within a week time frame. and we translate everything, so it was sent into in English, Korean, and we have 10% Korean students, or in Vietnamese. And some of the parents, some were like, oh, we're really sorry, we thought they were doing it. Other people told us to go away, that they didn't want to be contacted, and can we leave them alone? So, you know, we sort of, that gave us, you know, all these were recorded, so we knew what was happening. So any feedback, again, is disseminated to the relevant teams. And then we didn't give up. If there was still no improvement, if there was still no improvement, we then called the parents until we could get someone online to find out what was going on, especially when we were getting into week 3 and 4 with absolutely no contact. And then our last stop this week, oh no, it stopped letting me click. There we go. Our heads of department have now started reaching out individually to parents, again, from a much more subject specific point, and that raised a lot of questions. Does that mean that they will get 8 emails or phone calls from 8 different subject leads? And their heads of department were fantastic. They had a meeting, they got together, and they worked out which students needed a group call or a group email to cut down on that traffic. So we're beginning to see improvement, but we will see. We are still learning in all of this. But it also taught us a lot on how we needed to change what we were doing. The engagement data got us talking to parents, and they were able to tell us what was working and what wasn't working. And if we hadn't tracked this data, we wouldn't have known this. So first of all, the Pastoral Needs worked out how to have one-to-one team calls with students of concern. That worked really well. You know, we found out that students were now feeling really overwhelmed. They couldn't catch up, and just that one conversation meant that they were feeling a bit better. We then started having year group assemblies online with 90 kids. Obviously staggered for our bandwidth at school. It's not designed for that, but they absolutely loved that, and the students responded really well with that, and our engagement started to rise. From parents, the parents really, and they're still asking for more live lessons. So we've taught ourselves how to be better on that. We use Microsoft Teams meetings. I know other schools in Hanoi are using Zoom or Google Hangouts. My own daughter, I watched her do a year 2 numeracy lesson the other day. She's 6. It was hysterical. So, that this is really important. But we have had to feedback to parents that we can give them live lessons, but only 3 or 4 students were showing up out of a group of 20. So, we had to push it back to the parents a little bit and use our engagement data to show that. We also have smaller form groups, tutor groups, smaller mentoring groups. So those leaders also ran mentoring sessions, and we got some amazing feedback about what's going right and what's going wrong from there. We started having heads of department, staff meetings, just focusing on our teaching and learning approach because we needed to make some changes. I don't think I've ever been on a camera so much. Using Screencast-O-Matic, which is free, has been fantastic because you can do the PowerPoint and then you can be seen and you can save it and it can be live. And so that really was a game changer. And our biggest lesson, and I can't stress this enough, is how much students work really slowly at home. And to begin with, we hadn't factored that in. We were still running our 6 lesson day, and they just can't keep up. So we started a rolling, so it wasn't on the same day, weekly consolidation and challenge day to allow students to stay up to date with their work. So that's a day where nobody sets any new work. All the teachers are online for questions. The students had a chance to ask questions, catch up on work, consolidate their work, and if they finished everything, do some challenge tasks with some achievement points and for their house team. that would be our biggest thing that we learned from our engagement, that really helped our engagement, is when we gave students time to actually catch up. They cannot do what we do with them in a school day. And very much when we started this, because we'd only had about 12 hours notice, that's how we started, by trying to run the timetable as normal, but we needed to slow it down an awful lot, and our engagement data showed that. We're coming to the end of term 2 here. We've moved Easter holiday. It's starting this Thursday. And usually we would have a report to parents, an academic report. We did not feel that that would be the most rigorous of reports, because we saw students, we tried doing exams online, or not exams, assessments online, and students were jumping up their grades very, very high. Their grades were amazing, but it did bring up some questions on how they were getting those answers to be so perfect suddenly. We were in control. We weren't in control of the situation. So we've decided, and this is going out tomorrow to our parents, that we are putting out a virtual school engagement report. You'll see my blank column here. It is now filled. This is my own mark sheet. It is now filled. I've just given them sort of an average over the last 4 weeks. And every class did this. Even our PE classes, they decided they weren't going to do this, but they've been working and setting challenges, and they thought, you know what, actually we want parents to know that if their child has been really engaged, we want them to know that, because the teachers have been putting in the work, because parents are asking us to be running the school as normally as we do. So every subject is on this. We do believe, we had a big discussion amongst staff, but at the end we believe it is our responsibility to share this data with parents, regardless of all the phone calls and everything like that. The parents need to know where they stand as they go into their holiday. And it gives also them a chance, it gives them tomorrow to check in with their teachers and to perhaps ask, what do I need to do to be catching up? Some of the reports started going out today, and we've had some parental feedback. But, it is just a chance for them. We want to be able to support them. The bottom line of this is support. If our students are back on the 6th, then yes, that will be, we will have assessments quite quickly, and we'll put out an academic report, progress report, quite quickly. But if they're not, and remote learning continues, we need to think about that, which means we need to do some research into levels of engagement, as I have lots of people in the rebellion and some now moving into the retreat phase here. And this was just some research that I thought was interesting, not to go into now. Okay, so if we're not back, if we're still running a virtual school, this is what we need to be looking at. Okay, and at the end of the day, this is my last slide, everybody. So thank you for being so patient with me. At the end of the day, I found this on Facebook, and it really resonated with me. And I'm seeing it in my own neighborhood, with older students becoming de facto babysitters. They're doing work at different times when their parents come home. We don't know what's going on in their household. I've seen my own children. We've only got so many devices, but they're meant to be sharing them and online at the same time. So we have to look at our expectations accordingly, and hopefully our engagement report allows that. So we can do what we can, have all the information we need to support our students. And if you haven't seen, so that's right. Thank you. It's gone. I have a slide that says thank you. I think there we go. So thank you for listening. If you haven't heard the Vietnam Corona song from John Oliver, he's been playing it, and it will cheer you up, I promise. Just put that there just in case you need a kickstart for your day if you're in America. But thank you very much. That's it from me.
Kaye, thank you very much. I know that there was a little bit of sound issue at the end, but I think all worked out very well. Thank you so much for your valuable experience. It's great to see that you've managed to find the way to deal with the crisis.
We're still dealing with it, but here we go.
Absolutely. Yes. Are there any questions? If you're watching us live, if you do have questions, please write them in the chat. And I'm sure that Kaye would be glad to answer all your questions.
Absolutely. Hopefully.
So we'll just wait for a few minutes, for a couple of minutes, and if there are no questions, then it's amazing to see how you've actually laid out the whole map of attendance and marked everything. It's absolutely incredible to see, where the kids are and how you managed to actually get hold of some parents and to find out what's happening. But that's been a challenge, it looks like.
It has, because this came straight after our Tet holiday, which is the big holiday for Vietnam. A lot of our students weren't in Hanoi. They'd returned to their family homes in the provinces, so they didn't return. So they didn't have, no one had anything with them. They didn't have their books. They didn't have their device. They had nothing with them. They haven't been allowed back on site.
Okay. Yes, I see. Well, I don't see any questions.
No.
Okay, thank you so much. And it's a great presentation. And thank you for sharing your experience.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'll switch to Laura now. And
okay.
Yeah.
Do I leave the studio? What do I do?
Yes, you can stay with us or you can leave the studio. Thank you.
I want to see what Laura's got to say. So
yeah, sure. Hi, Laura, back to you now. And would you be sharing the screen or would you be just talking?
Yes, I'll be sharing my screen.
Okay, if you can set it up and I'll bring it to the window. Okay, here we go. Good. If you have any questions, I'm here as well with you, but I'll put myself on mute.
All right, good morning or good evening to everyone. My name is Laura, and I want to talk about 4 resources for teachers that will help you record yourself while we are going through this distance learning. The first one I want to point out is Anchor. Anchor is a free website where you can make podcasts for teachers and students alike. So I wanted to break this down in easy steps. First of all, you would go to anchor.fm and make a podcast. Then you click new episode, click start recording now, and click stop when you're finished. And then the great thing about this is just primary for you to speak. So you're not necessarily showing your face to the students, or they wouldn't be showing their faces to you. It's just more on verbal. And then you can save your episode, call your episode, like instructions for the day, directions, feedback for a lesson, publish now, and then I copy the links of the podcast into the classroom. Another way you could use this with students is have them make their own podcast. So I think this would be super powerful practice for English teachers doing a book talk, or even a math teacher for explaining the steps of the equation. So Anchor is just a really cool website for you to make a podcast or your students to make podcasts and listen to podcasts. The next one I want to point out is Vocaroo. Again, this is free. This is no frills. I really like this one because there's no login or password. So the steps are simple to follow. First, you go to vocaroo.com. You click on your red microphone. You might have to enable that on your computer. And then you just begin talking. So it's very easy to use. You hit the save button and then you can share your link to the classroom. So since I teach Spanish, I have my kids do speaking prompts to me where they can speak in Spanish for 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes, etc. And then I'm just listening to them talk. So it's super powerful because it's just very easy for students to use because it's user friendly. The next one is very powerful practice, which is Flipgrid. This is awesome because it helps build the community within your classroom. So in order to make this a better experience for the kids and me, I like this one because it allows you to see their faces and they can see your face as well. So you would create a teacher account, log on, and then create a grid. And so what a grid is basically your topics for what you're trying to communicate with your students. And then you hit begin recording, and then your face will come up to the screen, and then you can talk about directions for the day, or you can just check in with them, how they're doing. They can reply back to you. There's a unique code for every single Flipgrid, so it's very safe and secure. They have to log in. They can see one another's videos, but they cannot like write on their faces or do anything inappropriate. So I like this one because, again, it's free and it's really good for community building and for social emotional learning. I've seen this used with kindergartners up to students in college. So I think they like this because it's kind of a hybrid between FaceTime and Instagram and Snapchat, but of course for educational purposes. And then the other one I think a lot of teachers enjoy using, which I do too, is the extension Screencastify. Again, you would go into Chrome and search for this in the Chrome Web Store. And then you have a couple options with this. First, you could open up your desktop and you could have the screen mirroring that. You could open up a website. You could open up Google Slides, PowerPoint, or you can just show them your face. And so you have a little bit of autonomy which view you want your kids to see depending on what you're trying to communicate. And then you just hit the red arrow icon within your website, and then you can begin recording with audio and webcam, or if it just suits you to do audio, that's fine, or webcam. So you have a lot of flexibility within Screencastify. So now I want to show you what this looks like on the website. Is this sharing okay or no?
No, it doesn't look like it. It's a black screen.
Okay, let me try it again. Okay, so this is Anchor, and this is what you would do. You would go to Dashboard, click New Episode, and you would hit Record and start recording now. Today, our lesson is focusing on, and then you would just hit Stop Recording, and then all you have to do once it's finished processing is you drag this over here, and then it processes, and you would save your episode. And you would title it something, check in, and then listen to this podcast. So this is why I like this, because once I hit publish now, then I have this copy link, and I take that link and put it on Google Classroom. So that's Anchor. Vocaroo is the one I mentioned prior, and this is the no frills one. So it's literally vocaroo.com. Click on the red recording. Hello, begin speaking, hit the pause button, save and share, and you have your link. So I really like this one because I think anybody, kindergartners up to 12th graders, could use this. There's a QR code you could put on Facebook, Twitter, and that's the link. It's just super easy to use and free. The next one is very powerful. It's Flipgrid. So you log in once you create your teacher account, and then you have all these grids. So these are topics basically, and you can characterize those by different classes you teach, the grade levels, the contents, units, assessments, etc. So for example, I do a lot with the parents, and so for the parent involvement one, I had all the parents record a message for their students, and it's always good to model your video first because you need to be a part of the community, obviously. And so you can see one another's videos. So that's super fun. The kids really like this because they get to see each other. So I have a remote learning, I have a family one, and you can just see, they can see each other's picture. So I think it just unifies the classroom a lot with Flipgrid. So what you would do there is you give a code out. Again, this is secure for your students and your teachers or your parents. They click on the green plus. They log in to validate their identity, and then you will notice the screen and then their picture comes up. If they're shy, they can always put a thumb in front of the camera, and then they begin recording. So super powerful. Hello. And then they can view their work, hit next. Powerful. Hello. And then they take a selfie, which they love. And then it will be submitted on the grid. So this one is super fun to use because they can see each other. And this is obviously powerful since we're all doing remote learning. The next one I'm going to highlight is Screencastify. So again, you download this free in the Chrome Web Store. And then you can see this tiny red arrow. So you have to hit that. And then you have the option to either share your browser tab, your desktop, or webcam, which I mentioned earlier. So this could go a lot of different ways. So for example, I made this screen for us. If I wanted the kids to see my face and my screen, then I would obviously put in my microphone and my webcam, and I would record. So then my face comes to the very bottom, you can see, and I click on the screen. And so the kids enjoy like seeing us if you're explaining the lesson. So hello class, today we're going to talk about Flipgrid, Anchor, Vocaroo, Screencastify. And then when you're done, you just stop sharing. So I've seen a lot of teachers use this for math or whatnot because it's really good for visual learners. Again, if you don't want to share your face, that's fine. You could just share your desktop or website, or if you just want to share your face. So, and then you just share it to Classroom. You could also publish this to YouTube. So there's just so many ways to use these websites. So I really hope you enjoyed them. If you have any questions for me, you can honestly contact me. But Flipgrid, Anchor, Vocaroo, and Screencastify have been super powerful to use as a teacher. And depending on your style and what your end goal is, you can use Anchor for podcasts, Vocaroo if you just need to record something. Screencastify is very good for sharing screens. And then I also think Flipgrid is good for building community.
Thank you, Laura. Great. That's what that was very helpful tools to do the recording, and great. Thank you so much. If there are no questions, if you're watching live, if you do have questions, write them in the chat for Laura, and you can always contact her on Twitter. Both Kaye's and Laura's Twitter accounts will be under this video. So I would like to bring again Kaye once again to the room very quickly, and to say thank you again to both of you, to Laura and Kaye, for wonderful presentations. It was very interesting to obviously hear about the information, what's happening in Vietnam, and because you've been very long time off school. And Laura, thank you very much for sharing your experience and sharing what works for you and what helps the students to learn as well.
Thank you so much for setting this up.
Yes, so thank you very much. And tomorrow we'll have a break, but we'll be off. We'll be back again on the 25th with 2 more presentations. So join us live or watch it on the recording. And have a good day.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.